Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to edit dramatic product photography photos, and we're going to edit one particular photo and it's going to go from this to this. Right, so this is the actual photo here that I've picked to use because this is one of my favourite product photos that I've actually taken. As you can see at the top here, this is the settings I took. So I was 1/60th, f2.8 and ISO 500. First, what I'm actually going to do is clean up the photo itself. So as you can see, obviously because it's a filter, it's going to get a bit dusty and stuff like that really, so it's not going to look the cleanest. So what I do first, I grab the I grab the healing brush tool, and then literally all I do is I put it on heal, and then I just click the circle big enough, tap it, and then there you go, it just takes it from that, so it heals the actual image. So it's not cloned, I just like to heal it because literally you can't tell a difference anyway. So I'm going to just go through and actually do it for all of this item. Now you can drag up on the actual D-pad as well and look, make a bigger circle as well. That doesn't look as good, so that's what I'm going to lower it and just do these one at a time. Same for this one, it will grab it from there. So look, as you can see, it's a little bit off because it didn't take it from the actual place. So if I look, you can move this down just to, there you go, so that looks near enough perfect now. So it automatically chose to go up there, but because obviously it looked a bit weird, the same with this one. So if I actually click this, look, I can move this around so I can have that, look. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag this down to about there, and then that's basically done it perfectly. So I'm going to do that for the rest of them now. There's quite a few of them on this, and they really need to actually take care of my filters a bit more and actually clean them a bit, because this is quite bad. But I always do this at the start of every product shoot before I get on to any editing at all. The one thing I hate about Lightroom is when you zoom in when you're in the clone heal, look, I can't move around, so I'm gonna have to come out of it and then drag over. That's looking a lot better now. There's a little bit more down here that I can just do. Just get a few of these out. It's not very noticeable, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. Right, so that's it. Once you've cleaned it up, so obviously look, before really dirty and dusty, after, and there you go. So that's the first thing I like to do. I just thought I'd jump in here and show you my actual first Lightroom preset pack called Main Pack 1. You can find it on my website with the link in the description below if you are interested. There's only 10 presets in the pack as it's my first one, and I'm offering it for £5, so it's 50p per preset really. So if you are interested, hit the link in the button below and I'll just go through some of them now. So as you can see with this photo of the actual motorbike here, you've got 10 different presets down there, so you can actually see which ones they do. So I've got Calm Breeze here, gives it a nice little flat look. This is Cinematic Haze, and then you've got Cool Dramatic, Dream Sky. So you've also got Dreamy Haze, and then you've got Film Tone, Flat Film, Moody Haze, Pink Sky, and then Warm Dream. And all of these presets are found with Main Pack 1 on my website now, so if you are interested, hit the link in the description below, head you there, and you can pick it up for as little as £5. So let's get back to the video. The second thing, what I like to do is just to check that it's all like level out. Once I've done that, now that's actually when I get into the editing. So firstly, what I normally do is I play around with the sliders first, actually down here. So what I always do, because I'm trying to create a dramatic product shoot, I'm actually gonna up the contrast quite a bit. I always do that really first, and then I'll play around with it after once I get to the tone curve. So I'm gonna up the contrast straight away because that just makes one hell of a difference already. So I'm not gonna go too mad. I'm going to put it around 30 something maybe. And then straight away what I always like to do is lower the blacks. Anything like a contrasty dramatic photo, I really like lowering the blacks a lot. So obviously it's going to crush them, but I don't mind that too much because sometimes I concentrate with, look, I up the shadows and it's not really making much difference to be honest. So I'm just going to leave that about here. And I'm going to up the whites as well. So the top and the bottom I'm just going to ignore. It's kind of just more of like a frame for the actual photo itself, because the background's literally just going to be like my chair or this black backdrop anyway. So the actual image itself, what we're concentrating on is the filter. So I always like upping the whites quite a bit, and then I lower the highlights a little bit. I don't like upping the highlights too much and lowering the whites because I don't think that looks very good at all. So I up the whites and I lower the highlights to obviously not too much, not too high, only literally just a little bit, because in a bit I'm going to be playing around with the actual individual colours in this photo anyway. So lower the highlights a little bit, and then I can up the contrast a bit as well. So I'm going to leave it at that now, and then I'm going to come back to it in a bit because that's what I always do. So let's zoom in a bit now because we're actually getting onto here. And now because it's a product photo shoot, I always like adding some texture and clarity. I don't do that to any of my landscapes or anything like that, or any of my portraits, mainly just for the product photography, because it's a lot of the detail in it. Like, you're looking at the detail. If you're looking online and you're going through some products to buy, you're going to want to see the nice fine details and that. So I always up like the clarity and the texture itself anyway. So this is what it's looking like so far. Look, already huge big difference. And then what I do, I up the vibrance, not too much because look, then it just turns blue. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to up the vibrance and then lower the saturation a little bit as well by about -10. Up the vibrance a little bit more. And then dehaze, like if I come out, you don't really need to do anything to the dehaze because look, it just gets too dark or too like misty. So I don't touch the dehaze a lot in my product photos. And then I come down here, and then this is where it's probably going to change quite a bit. I always, a lot of the time, I just love it, is lift the blacks. All the time. Sometimes it can just give it that little film look anyway for other photos, but I always like lifting the blacks and then lowering them down. I just think that looks way better. So if I actually turn off, just by lifting and lowering them down, just makes the image way more better, I think. Obviously it's opinions, but I just think it looks a lot nicer when you're doing that as well. And then I always lift up the highlights as well, because look at the difference that makes. So I always like to lift the actual highlights itself. I don't really, a lot of the time, play around with the mid-tones. So I normally just leave that where it is. I'm actually going to up the highlights a little bit more. And just play around with the blacks again. And then I don't really normally touch into like these colour ones. Like sometimes it can be quite cool to add like a red to the highlights. I actually kind of like the look of that. So I'm actually going to do that a little bit. And then I'll lower this because I always like shadow bluey green in the shadows, like turquoise and that. So we'll leave it at that. I might come back to it in a minute and change it. But then I come down to the oranges, and then I like giving saturation to the orange only because I don't like doing it for the whole image because then the blues itself in the thing gets much. So I like giving saturation to the orange because I was using the Aperture MC orange light like I'm using behind me now to light the orange on it anyway. And I sometimes I like lowering the oranges. I like upping them, but in this case I kind of like lowering them a little bit. So I'm actually going to lower it by 10 if I can get it to there. Before and after, huge difference already. And I'm going to come to the blues and then lower the blues a bit because I don't like it being really blue in there. So I'm going to lower the blues and then up the luminance of them. Anyway, so that's that so far. I think it's a bit too dramatic and too contrasty at the minute, so I'm actually going to lower the contrast in a bit. But that's why I always go back up to the sliders, because you're constantly making different layers over your images when you edit it anyway. So I'm going to add some blues to the shadows, and then to the highlights I'm going to add some oranges again because I like the actual orange look of it. Anyway. And then I come down here to the color calibration tool. I don't always use this, but I just play around with it really. So look, the green primary, look at that, how that difference. So I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to up it. The same for this one. You can change it. I normally leave them because I want to keep the colors. And I'm going to up that one. And then the blues, I'm going to lower a little bit. And then actually change that to -8. So yeah, this is what it's looking like so far. I'm definitely gonna, I think, lower the contrast. I don't remember putting it on 50. I'm gonna lower the contrast, put it to 20. Lift the blacks a little bit now. I think that looks a little bit better. Up the whites a little bit. I'm gonna give it a tiniest bit of dehaze ever, I think. Let's go back down to the tone curves. I think I'm going to up the blacks a little bit more. Lower the saturation a bit more as well, just so it's not too much saturation in this image. think what it is, I think there's too much whites in this image. Yeah, I think the whites are a bit too much. And I might actually up the highlights a little bit instead of the whites. Yeah, I think that looks a lot better. Up the blacks a little bit. Maybe give it a bit more highlights up here. I've made a spot on the midtones now and actually upping the midtones a little bit, not too much. Add the tiniest bit of blues to the highlights, not even too much. I don't normally touch the midtones that much either. Yeah, I think that's what I was missing, because it's the actual luminant, the color of it. Look, it's blue. It's making it out blue. When I don't want to lower it too much, but because it still counts it as blue. Look, when I up the luminance and then lower the luminance, I think lowering the luminance is a lot better compared to what it was at like that. So I'm going to lower the luminance than that. I think that makes it a lot more better in general. And also with the product photography, it's also all about like composition as well. So instead of just having the actual filter just on the table taking a photo of it, I thought I'll just get the case it comes in and then lean it up against it a bit just to make it a little bit more pleasing and better to the eye. I just think it looks really nice with the filter leaning up instead of just on the floor or straight up against something. And obviously it's the case that it comes in as well, and it also adds that extra bit to the image as well, because obviously some of the background can go out of focus as well, so you can actually see the depth of it as well. So it's not just the actual thing as well. So I kind of like doing that to my product photos. But at the end of the day, I'm going to come back up here, one last thing, and I'm going to up the whites. No, I'm going to lower the whites and up the highlights a little bit more now, just to make it pop a little bit with the highlights of it, so it's really making it stand out a little bit more. Up the contrast a little bit more like I had earlier, about 38. Play on the blacks a little bit. So basically that's how I edit some of my product photos, to give a more of a dramatic feel to it anyway as well. I like contrasting the dramatic ones. I like lowering the blacks quite a lot, but then sometimes I like lifting the blacks and then lowering them, just because I think I prefer that look anyway. Yeah, I always add like the vibrance as well to it, and I always try and add a colour to my product photos as well. Like a blue, orange, anything really, just to make it a bit more pleasing to the eye, and just to make it look a lot more better, to be honest, because I like having colours in there as well. So yeah, that's basically how I edit some of my product photos. So maybe take some of the tips what I've done in this actual tutorial, maybe you'll be able to edit your photos like this to get more of a dramatic feel as well in the future. So if this video did help you, hit that like button, because it really does help me out, and then subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. I'll leave the link in the description for my website as well, so you can go check that out if you want. So thank you very much for watching. I really did hope you enjoy, and I hope it did help you out, and I'll see you guys on the next video. See you later.